Hello and welcome to The Long Couch. My name's Carl. I'm joined tonight by Mel.
You're joined by me every night we do this. Have you been joined by other people that I don't know about?
I am joined by a couple cats and my girlfriend in this room, but they're not participating.
My cats are not in this room and therefore also not participating.
If you count Luna in the background sleeping on the bed participating, then I guess she is.
Normally I have Atlas like on the cat tree right behind me, but obviously tonight he has better things to do than to lay around and listen to me talk, so he's off somewhere.
So this is going to be our last episode of 2023.
Woo.
So we're going to be doing a year-end roundup and going over our favorite things of the year. So pieces of media and such.
Yes.
And I assume that if we are still an existing podcast next year, we will do the same.
Listen, I see big picture. I see long term.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about those goals, those checkpoints, and I think I can see it next year. When we talk about this.
Well, I have high hopes, but this isn't either of our first podcast.
That is also very true. That is
But
true.
then again, my last podcast wasn't with you, Mel.
That is, my last podcast similarly also was not with you. So maybe that's the component to the formula that we've been missing.
That's an important factor.
Fun fact: I had a podcast, and I had a podcast about anime with two of my friends back when I ran an anime account, and the anime account was very popular, right? My anime account, I'm not going to say any number, but it was in the tens of thousands of followers. And our podcast, which was listened to by the people in the communities that we built, was huge, but it was listened to. People liked it. And so we ended the podcast because I really didn't have any interest in making content centered around anime anymore. So I was like, I don't really feel like making content centered around this. It feels like more of a chore. I can't keep up. So I'm out. And then, to my surprise, Hulu titles their new acquisition of a bunch of new anime. They title this new corner of Hulu the same name as my podcast.
They titled it the Virginity Podcast?
Listen, years ago, I had a podcast called Animeham, and Hulu, their new whole promo for their new anime acquisition is Animeham. Isn't that weird?
You are entitled to royalties.
Here's the thing. I think part of me may seem self-centered to believe that Hulu stole that from me. But I think they did.
I believe it. Okay, we've got a list of all of our favorite things of 2023. We're going to start at the top with our favorite album of the year. So let's start.
This is a big one.
Each category has space for one honorable mention before the main event. So let's start with our honorable mentions for favorite album of 2023. Mel, do you want to take this one?
Sure. I think this one was tough for me because honestly, this year I feel like I spent a lot of time backtracking, really diving into the histories of bands and genres. So my attention wasn't necessarily focused on new music coming out, but rather music that I had missed over the years or maybe was just too young to appreciate at its release. But it kind of feels like a cheat code. It kind of feels like a dumb cop-out answer, but I really liked the Live at Electric Lady album from Clairo. Sling is one of my favorite albums of all time, and so she released a live version of some of the songs on that project. And they're like the definitive versions of the tracks. They're so much fun to listen to. The new AJJ album was also pretty good.
Whoa, Mel. No, we got one honorable mention here.
Dude, I'm having a hard time.
We could be here all night
deciding.
if you're just throwing out all the albums you liked.
Okay, well, I'll say probably the new AJJ record, but I did like the new Walter, etc. record a lot. And if it wasn't a live album, I would say Live at Electric Lady by Clairo.
Well, what's the new AJJ record called?
It is called Disposable Everything. And it has a lot of really great songs on it and a couple okay ones. I don't know. I think that AJJ has this sort of thing when you compare it to, I mean, let's say Knife Man. I think Knife Man is probably their most visceral and well put together album that they've made. I think when you compare it to an album like Knife Man, it definitely retracts a little bit from maybe the edge or the sort of more tongue-in-cheek and like visceral depictions of like this sort of like collective human condition in America that we go through, this sort of like existential landscape of America that they tend to explore a lot. But despite it sort of withdrawing a little bit in terms of edge, being a bit more subdued sonically and thematically, I thought that tracks like Dissonance and Death Machine and White Ghosts, I thought were all really, really great in their messaging. I thought the instrumentals were really good. They fixed up a lot of the problems that were, say, present in Christmas Island, where they were so compressed to hell that all of the tracks just lacked dynamics and were really flat. I feel like the songs on Disposable Everything were pretty dynamic. By no means my favorite AJJ record, but I was happy with it. I thought it was really good. Carl, what was your favorite album this year?
Well, I'll tell you what my honorable mention for the favorite album is.
Please do.
It is So Much for Stardust by Fall Out Boy.
Okay.
This album is very important for me this year because it's the album that brought me back into the Fall Out Boy fan club.
Oh, they reeled you back in with it.
Yes. So this album basically picks off sonically where Folie à Deux left off 3 records ago. I don't really remember when that one came out, but I was like in high school when that one came out. So they've been making very different, more electronic pop influenced music for like the last 3 albums.
I have heard
that I fell off of listening to. I was just not interested in hearing that from Fall Out Boy. But they have a big return to form on this album. And it's more of a rock, pop, anthemic album, similar to where they left off with Folie à Deux. It's pretty seamless. It's kind of like they retconned the last 3 albums. Kind of like the new Halloween reboot where they just say, let's just forget all those sequels happened. We're just going to go back. We're going to pick up where we left off with this sound. And they fucking killed it.
Forget all the bad stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't necessarily bad. Like, there are a lot of like #1 hit songs on those albums. A lot of people like them.
If I can say that the Front Bottoms, one of my favorite bands ever, had a bad album, it's okay. You can be like, hey, some of those Fall Out Boy records weren't too good.
I mean, a lot of people hate Mania. I just personally was not interested in that sound, so I stopped listening at that point. Anyway, this album is just really great. It brought me back into the fold. It's a super strong album. They just didn't skip a beat, and they got back to the Fall Out Boy that I knew and loved. Yeah, I just really enjoyed this album this year. It's got a lot of great, big, anthemic songs. They are not just like going back to straight, like, we're early 2000s pop punk again. They're like, they kind of have a little bit of that, but they're also still very poppy. And, you know, they still have that sleek, polished sound that they had on Folie à Deux, which I really loved. That was the last Fall Out Boy album that I really fell in love with. So this...
Well, you've convinced me.
Yeah, this album's great. I absolutely adore it. But it's not quite my album of the year. So Mel...
Yeah, what's your album? That was high praise. What's your #1?
Well, let's go back to you for your #1 album of the year, and then we can return to me.
You know what? I after some thinking, I'm not going to say the Clairo record because it was a live album. That doesn't count. I really want to, though. But I will say my favorite album is probably Wall Socket, I would say. Yeah, and the funny thing about Wall Socket being my favorite album is the sort of like we're kind of in like a post hyperpop era because hyperpop was dead on arrival. Unfortunately, it's a good genre, but I think that things became incredibly contrived and unfortunately derivative after a very short period of time. And so we've kind of entered this very, very, very good era of prog pop, where you have sort of like this blend of art pop and progressive pop, and this sort of the residuals of hyperpop kind of being rolled into a ball, and resulting in this really cool wave of underground pop music that has been incredibly experimental with the genre. It feels incredibly fresh, and it feels like to some extent people are experimenting with it in a way that is constructive and conducive to a good genre and good sounds. And sure, there's always going to be people that are trend hopping and copying the most popular wave, because that really is what's most popular right now in the underground. But I think that Wall Socket was a really great example of how people can sort of take this new wave of prog pop and expand beyond it and really really make something special. Because when you listen to songs like Cops and Robbers, or like Locals, Girls Like Us, you have this blend of hyper energetic electronic music, you have the thrashiness of post hardcore, and then you have this nice shiny like glossy layer coated over everything, this nice sheen of bright poppiness. That's great. But then you also have tracks like Jeez Louise, where the pop influences are take a little bit more of a backseat for a way thrashier and heavier rock sound, similar to like Billy Knows Jamie on the new Gex record. I mean, by no argument can you say that Billy Knows Jamie is a hyperpop song. It's a nu metal track, the same way that Jeez Louise is sort of like this alternative rock and post-hardcore track. So it's cool to see Underscores take a lot of the really exciting sounds that are happening right now and expanding upon them in an incredibly invigorating and fresh way. It is a fucking fantastic album. I mean, my least favorite song on the album was probably You Don't Even Know Who I Am, and that is still an uncanny, eerie, and atmospheric horror adjacent track that I think is amazingly complimentary to the rest of the record. I have no complaints for that album. Yeah, man, that Gabby Start feature too is so good. It's so fucking I'm trying to think of what word I used. I think I might have used the word entitled for the Gabby Start feature. It's so like it's very sassy. Gabby Start, Jane, and Hen House. I think those are all the features on the record. Are all crazy. Hearing Hen House do that hook on Jeez Louise is so good every time. I don't know. I love the project. I think it's great. But I could also understand that it has a very abrasive nature that is sometimes a little over the top with how many sounds are going on in a single song.
Because my favorite band did not put out an album this year, my second favorite band takes the spot for my number one album, and that is...
Can I guess?
Yes, you can guess.
I think it's the new Hot Mulligan record.
It is. Why Would I Watch by Hot Mulligan. Anyway, this is a follow-up to like pretty much the template for everything that I do. My religion, You'll Be Fine. I mean, Hot Mulligan is just my second favorite band in the world. They're amazing.
Who's your favorite band?
We'll get to that with my favorite single.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
I absolutely adore the post-emo sound of Hot Mulligan. I love their dual vocalist dynamic that they have. I take a ton of influence from them in my own music. And, this is a really great follow-up to their previous album. They go in a couple interesting new directions. They mature their sound a bit more. They really just followed up this album with something that's like just nearly as good as their previous album, which is really good for bands these days, where they don't totally fall off after their big, like, kind of breakout album. I guess this is
great album cover too. That album cover is so nice to look at. It's very visually pleasing.
But just when it comes to like accessible Midwest emo, pop rock, post emo album, this is it. And right. As far as this year is concerned, this is my number one album. This is one of my most listened to things. I absolutely love Why Would I Watch.
Favorite single now. My honorable mention would probably be Scribbles by 8485, or The Hillbillies by Keem and Kendrick. I was gonna say Mama's Primetime, but that was just on the album. I don't think that was a single. Scribbles by 8485 has some of the catchiest vocal melodies of the entire year. They sound amazing. They're perfectly mixed into I can't remember who produced it. Was it Virtual Girlfriend or was it? I can't remember who produced it. But it's got amazing production on it. And that song was stuck in my head for months after its release. I just could not get it out. It's so shiny and poppy, and so catchy. And then The Hillbillies was great because after Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, an incredibly emotional undertaking of an album, The Hillbillies was very relaxed. It was very straightforward. It sounded like Kendrick was having a lot of fun with Keem, and it felt like a breath of fresh air in Kendrick's music because his last album was so I mean, emotionally overbearing. I would say probably Scribbles by 8485 was that caught my attention the most.
My honorable mention for my favorite single of the year, it's The Summoning by Sleep Token.
I don't think I heard that one.
I'm surprised you were able to avoid it because it was like number one on Spotify for a while. It had a huge moment on TikTok.
So it's like a big song.
It is.
Hold on, I'm gonna play it real quick. I bet I know it if it's like that big.
It's one of the bigger songs of the year. I was familiar with Sleep Token prior to this new album cycle coming out, just kind of casually. But of course, when this song came out, it really blew me away. Obviously, that's why it caught on the way it does. But it's surprising that it caught on the way that it did on TikTok because it's like a 7-minute epic metal song, which is it's not usually what becomes popular like that these days, I think.
Not at all. I'm listening to it right now. I've never heard this.
So, I mean, the first section is just, a genty metal amalgamation.
That's what it sounded like, yeah.
I mean, it's got some amazing vocals, super technical, interesting instrumentals all the way through. And then the song has an interlude in the middle of it, and then it evolves into a smooth, kind of jazzy, soulful kind of a spin of the first half of the song. So it just recontextualizes that portion of the song into like a totally different genre. So this song is like I said, like 7 minutes long. It's got a whole metalcore section. Then you get an interlude in the song, and it goes into basically another song, which kind of riffs on the original section of it. Which is, it blows my mind that
listen to
that it got popular like that, because Zoomers have no attention span. Like, how are they going to sit down and listen to a 7-minute song? But part of the second half of the song is what caught on TikTok. So surprisingly, it wasn't the metal section that really blew up, but actually the latter half of the song.
I'm not surprised.
That caught on. Though I did play this song at a bar, and a bunch of random people just started singing like the entirety of it. So it's that popular to where a bunch of normies
away from its core audience.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm surprised that I've managed to avoid this, but I'm gonna have to go listen to it after this.
It is really fantastic, and the album that it belongs to is also very good. All right, Mel, what is your favorite single of the year?
My favorite single of the year is "Plastic" by Cheekface.
Okay.
Cheekface is an amazing band, beautiful, amazing band, full of dry wit and wry humor. And Plastic is just such a great embodiment of literally everything that they're good at. One, incredibly catchy and infectiously fun pop rock instrumentals. The riffs are tight and memorable. The drumming is bouncy and consistent. And then the lyrics are just great as always. They are a talk sing band, and they have this sort of like, not poetic, but the language that they use to describe the sort of current socio-political landscape of America is very abstracted from the way you talk. Lots of one-off, tongue-in-cheek references that, vary from incredibly specific to almost too general. Lots of fun wordplay in a lot of their music that is just the wackiest shit that you would never think of. But when you think about it, it genuinely does make sense. It's not like random equals funny XD. It's, there's substance to it. And God, that chorus is so fucking catchy, dude. I mean, every single night, instead of counting sheep in my head, I'm just going, everything is great now. Do you like it? No matter. It's crazy. It's insane. It's an amazing song from an amazing band. And Largest Muscle was a decent follow-up single, but Plastic is amazing.
So my favorite single of the year is by my favorite band. They didn't put out an album, but they did put out a single, and that is The Ghost of Billy Royalton by Dance Gavin Dance. So, I've been a giant fan of Dance Gavin Dance for many a year now. They're the only band that I buy albums from. And they came out with a new single that is a tribute to their late bassist, who they unfortunately lost this year. And so obviously it's got some beautiful imagery and lyricism and just kind of reminiscing on all the good times that they had together and, how his spirit's going to live on through their music. And I really love the direction that they're going with this and that they've slowly been going. One of the reasons I've always loved Dance Gavin Dance is because of their multiple vocalist thing. They always have at least two primary vocalists, and they occasionally throw in a third. This album has four, or the single has four vocalists on it, which I really love. They added a new guitar player, Andrew, a few years ago, and he's been slowly incorporating more vocals into their songs and becoming more of a present vocalist. So on this song, he has a huge portion, and Will Swan has his vocals, which have kind of been absent from a lot of the recent music. So I'm really hoping that this new album continues that and that they go forward with this four vocalist dynamic that they have, because they all are very unique. You've got the lead singer Tillian, who's got like a super high voice. You've got their screamer John Mess, who can do like tonal screaming, singing stuff as well. You've got Will Swan, who can rap. He does like auto-tune singing and even screaming. And then you've got Andrew, who has got like more of a mid-range kind of voice, not quite up with Tillian, but he kind of fills that gap below him. He's got a very dynamic voice. So I love everything they bring to the table. This band is like perfect. They've got the vocals are just perfect, and their instrumentals are like super technical and just spot on and consistently interesting. So, in short, I love Dance Gavin Dance. I love the single. I'm very much looking forward to the album in 2024. Let's move on to our favorite underground albums of the year.
I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay, I forgot it was set up like this. I kind of swapped around my answers a bit, and so since I said Wall Socket for favorite album, I'll go with the Walter Etc. album for the favorite underground album. I think they count as underground.
Yeah, they're not on a major label, right?
No, they're very DIY. DIY to the fucking bone.
So that's your honorable mention, or is this your number one favorite?
I would say it's my favorite.
Okay.
I probably got the most listening out of it, at least. Yeah, there's a lot of really great tracks on it. Get the Fuck Out Thoreau is super catchy. Victims of Integrity is fantastic as well. The title track is really fast-paced and disjointed and a lot of fun. Don't Stop Losing is great too. I don't know. It's an album that sort of came together after the band had been broken up on hiatus for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a lot of the lyricism, you can kind of hear that sort of like feeling of being brought and connected back together. Especially, the title track, the chorus is literally, Chris, I'm not pissed. I'm just remiss that I never had a backup plan. I don't know what I'll do when the band breaks up again. Basically saying it's like, this is all we have.
Yeah.
And so without it, I don't know. It's a really great album from a band that has gone through a lot of phases that I've liked a lot. So I probably, out of the underground albums that came out this year, I probably listened to it the most.
My honorable mention for favorite underground album of the year is Cold Shoulder by Fatsy. So,
that one was really good.
I'm a huge fan of Fatsy. I love his production and his guitar work. And on this album, he kind of recontextualizes his sound into like a drum and bass kind of sound. It's just really unique to hear that kind of like Midwest emo tappy guitar with those fast, overly processed drums and kind of spacey songs going on. I don't quite love this as much as Arson Green Nostalgia, but this is a super interesting direction to go in. And I really enjoy this album. There's a ton of strong songs on it, some great features, production shines. It's really fantastic. So I enjoyed this one a lot.
Yeah, dude. I talked about one of those like D&B tracks in a video, and dude, those Fatsy D&B tracks sound great. I really, really love, like you said, the sort of blend of that sort of Midwest tappy slick guitar riffs paired with the D&B like breakcore inspired drums. Like it sounds really fucking cool, and his vocals are so clean on him. I love that track. I loved the single that came out. I haven't really listened to the album too much, but it's a really cool sound.
You're used to hearing like synths and stuff with that sound. So to hear like emo style guitars on that sound is really unique.
Oh yeah, it's I don't know. I think it's a lot of fun. I would like to see him honestly kind of do more of it.
Well, if I had to guess, I would assume the next album is going to be in a totally different direction. Just because that's how Fatsy seems to operate. My number one underground album of the year, and Mel, maybe you'll be on the same page here. It's Kite by Corefish.
Yeah, that album was amazing.
To be fair, there are not a lot of underground artists that are putting out full-length albums.
There's not a lot of underground artists that are putting out notable full-length albums. Like, I don't want to sound like a dick. That's not meant to sound mean, because I think that because I like listening to like albums more than I do singles from underground artists. I think that's where like the experimentation and the sort of boundary pushing happens. But maybe I'm just not looking in the right places, but I feel like it's hard to find. And don't get me wrong, albums are so much harder to do. It's hard to make an album not sound like a mixtape or just a collection of singles. But I mean, Kite just really, really stood out as a comprehensive, slick, clean, finished project.
And even if this album if it had more competition this year, I would still be picking it because it's that good. This is a no-skip album. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's not too long.
No.
It's super consistent. It really seems like it was made in one sitting, and it's not a collection of singles. I love all the production on this one. I love their take on this kind of break-in sound, evolving that and making it their own. And they've got some really fantastic, unique vocals, and everything is just like super crisp and perfect, incredibly catchy songs, incredibly just
so
interesting,
it's insane,
ear-catching music all the way through. Yeah, I mean, this is a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, SOS is great. Run is one of my top singles of the year. Run is an insanely catchy bop. Sympathy with that Dylan Longworth feature is really, really... I mean, everything is just so... It sounds like it has a much higher production value than it does. It sounds so clean. I mean, I don't know. That shit is... That's peak pop music right there.
I mean, this is probably made in Corefish's bedroom, you know?
Yeah.
But it sounds like nearly flawless.
I would definitely put Kite up there in my top 5 albums, in my top 5 underground albums of the year. I also, for an honorable mention, The Elixir from Sewer Person was really great. I think that The Elixir sort of voided every previous criticism that I had for his past couple albums. I mean, because, you know, Sewer Person, Ninetales, that's like top of all time for me. On The Elixir, where he takes a step in the new direction with help from Nika North's production and mixing. I mean, it's new life has been like breathed into his discography. He's focusing more on songwriting revolving around entirely or partly or almost entirely fictional narratives, with lots of like body horror imagery, especially on like Captain's Log 248. That song is just straight body horror, with this super icy, and sleek mixing on some, but then also this super warm, fuzzy mixing on others, getting rid of that sort of trademark high pass mid range for, I don't know, a more comprehensive sound design.
Can I branch off of this?
Yeah, go for it.
Because my honorable mention for my favorite underground single of the year is Nest of the Night Owl.
That song fucks, and it's not even the best song on that album.
Right.
It's amazing. That song is so good.
Definitely when that song came out, I mean, obviously I'm already a huge Sewer Person fan, but there is some of his stuff that I'm just not kind of lukewarm about. I mean, he puts out so much music. When Nest of the Night Owl came out, I was just hooked on this sound from him because it is very unlike what we've gotten before. We get a totally different vocal mix from Nico, which I thought was really refreshing.
Dude, Nico's mixing and production on this album is killer. I mean, those new mixes he has, like Frozen in the Garden is another great example of it.
Yeah, this song is like super dreamy and kind of ethereal and just, it's very nice. It scratches my brain in just the right way. And I must have listened to it like 36 times when it came out. So it is my honorable mention.
It's great. It's so good. That was your honorable mention underground single, so let's just go ahead and hear your favorite underground single.
Okay, my favorite underground single of the year was my most played song on Spotify, and that
Okay.
is Where We Left Off by Avett. And Avett is an artist I just discovered this year, weirdly enough, because somebody in a comment compared my voice to theirs. I don't really hear it, but I guess I can see where they might make that connection. But I just looked up Avett based on that comment, and first I was listening to Apathetic. That's what I was listening to. It was the first song that really hooked me in. And so I went back and I dug through all of their discography. They've got some songs that are kind of like alternative pop, kind of emo rap kind of stuff, synthy pop kind of sound. But then they also have a lot of songs that are like metalcore. And this is one of those. So this is kind of like a pitched up pop metalcore anthem. And I just didn't expect to hear that kind of sound coming out of the scene. And it really blew me away. And this is my number one most played song of the year for a reason, because I must have listened to it dozens of times. Really fantastic, and I love just the variety of music that Avett has put out.
I would have to say that my favorite underground single. It's tough. I'm probably gonna say maybe "Run" from Corefish. That song is the definition of infinite replayability.
Mm.
Newton's Flaming Laser Sword from Zoltar was really great as well. It's a multifaceted track with a lot of differently defined and individual sections that, when put together, provide an incredibly unique yet still comprehensive and cohesive soundscape. And then MK Plus Ultra from Do Not Resurrect is probably his best song to date.
So, in my house, my roommate and my girlfriend and I sit down on a weekly basis and do a music rotation stream to the TV. Not that we're streaming out, but we're watching music videos on rotation in our living room. So I watch a lot of music videos. But weirdly enough, when it came to this one, I could not think of one that stood above all the rest.
I mean,
because I watched so
I just
many.
can't think of any that came out this year.
Right. There were definitely songs that and videos that I've watched that came out this year that I probably loved at the time when I was watching them, but when it comes to boiling it down, I cannot remember them. So, my pick comes from a kind of unconventional place. My favorite music video of 2023 is Ryan Gosling's I'm Just Ken.
That's from a movie!
It's a music video.
I mean, God, it really is, isn't it?
It really is. Even in the context of the movie, it's a music video.
Yeah, actually, it still is in the movie.
So, I mean, if you're unaware, this is from the movie Barbie, where Ryan Gosling as Ken has a huge anthemic ballad. And it's incredible. It's a fantastic song just on its own. And the video is super over the top and corny. And it just blew my mind. I was laughing my ass off in the theaters. This is one of my favorite songs of the year. And the video is it's something else. I mean, it's got a Hollywood budget behind it too, to make it even better.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't care what music videos I've seen this year from bands. You can't top this. It's impossible. Like, you can't top Ryan Gosling in a Hollywood film. I'm sorry, you just can't.
It's just too good. It's too good.
As far as visuals are concerned. I mean, you can make better songs than him. But when it comes to visuals,
are crazy, though.
This is fucking insane. I absolutely adore this video.
You know what? I would say the music video for Zinnias from Clairo's Live at Electric Lady
That's fair.
record. I'll see the music video for that. That was an amazing music video. Showcased a lot of fantastic talent.
So seeing that it's a live video, is it just like a performance, or is there some kind of unique...
Well, it's a performance, but there's a lot of moving parts in it. Also the studio, Electric Lady, it's a very pleasing to look at studio. It's very warm. It's very cozy looking. And there's a lot of different people that contribute to the live version of Zinnias. And the whole project. So it's sort of having it pan back and forth between all of the instrumentalists and then back to Clairo it's a lot of fun because you kind of get to get a bit of a peek behind the curtain. and see how everything functions as an individual component, and then you get to see it all put together at the same time. It's great. It's a lot of fun.
So let's talk about our artists of the year. So these can either be artists that we discovered this year or ones that just defined our year, ones that we listened to the most. Mel, who is your favorite band or artist of this year?
This one's tough for me because I listened to a lot of great artists this year, and as badly as I want to say JID, I want to say JID so badly, because I'm still listening to the Forever Story like on a daily basis. Um, just Brudanim with Dirk is, I mean, God, that is so good. And Dance Now and Surround Sound, and I don't know, they're all great. I want to say JID so bad, but I'm probably gonna have to say Cheekface. I listened to an ungodly amount of Cheekface this year, and I want to say Viagra Boys too. Out of my top 5 songs on Spotify, all of them were either Cheekface or Viagra Boys.
Did you discover either of those bands this year, or have you been a longtime fan of them?
I either started listening to Cheekface late last year or early this year, but I was listening to Viagra Boys last year because they dropped Cave World last year, which I think is a perfect album, like actual 10 out of 10. It's just it's a wonderfully, it's a wonderful kind of like satire of a lot of things, honestly. But it's essentially like a punk jazz record. And it's really creative instrumentally. It's really creative lyrically. Songs like Troglodyte and Punk Rock Loser are very well structured and straightforward bangers with a lot of really great satirism in the lyrics. But then also on songs like Baby Criminal and Creepy Crawlies uh, and Ain't No Thief, it gets a little more wild, and it's such a frantic and chaotic sound that they capture perfectly. I mean, it's legitimately just like a perfect album. Um, but Emphatically No, Therapy Island, and Too Much to Ask from Cheekface are, I mean, all 3 of those albums were consistently in my rotation all throughout the entire year. Best Life was my number 1 song of the year, and Wedding Guests was also high up there. But then also they have some, I think, less popular tracks like I Only Say I'm Sorry When I'm Wrong Now, I'm Doing Nothing Like Melatonin. Election Day is great too. I don't know. I mean, Cheekface has just by far dominated my years listening. Like, not even close.
A band that I discovered this year that I'm really thankful for and that I got a lot of listening out of is Static Dress. So they are a British, I believe, post-hardcore band, and I really love them because they really bring the sound back about 15 years. A lot of post-hardcore music that comes out today is very like technical and kind of based around like math rock and indie, and it's very ambient and such. So it's really cool to hear a rougher, more distorted, more old school kind of heavy and emo post-hardcore band that they don't make them like this anymore.
No, they really. At first I thought you said Static X, and I was like, Carl,
Static
what are you
X.
doing, man?
Static Dress. Yeah, I just love the way that they do the sound. With that old school flavor. You could tell me this album came out in like 2008 or something. I'd believe it. Very refreshing. So Mel, what about an underground band or artist that you discovered this year?
Well, if you weren't aware, that's kind of my whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is I listen to a lot of underground music and I talk about it on a weekly basis. Um, I don't really think I have a definitive favorite of the year, although Corfish would probably be really high up there. Um, I really really love what Riensu and sort of like the greater Zephyr Cove collective has been doing with this sort of bossa nova inspired pop wave that they've been doing. Categorized by beautiful harmonies, plucky bossa nova guitar, and insistent falsettos.
I do love that
Um,
sound.
but I think that Riensu, as well as like Yoku and Keanu and Saranghae, all do it really really well. Um, Lando released a couple songs this year after a break from her last album, and I really like the Lando tracks a lot. I can't say that I really do have a number one. That'd be really hard, but all of those artists I think were fantastic.
It wouldn't be fair for you, Melmage, to pick one favorite underground artist of the year just because
It'd
of
be
your
hard.
job.
Because of my job, it'd be a
Yeah.
conflict of interest.
I think so.
It was a really great year for Corpse Cartel. Everyone in Corpse Cartel did a great job. Do Not Resurrect, like I said, MK Plus Ultra is probably his best song to date. Kid Mango released Alien, which was a really great project. Lord K dropped Boss Battle, which is one of my top 50 singles of the year. Adjacent's fucking killer. Rose is doing killer. Sid Six dropped Fantasy, which is another one of my favorite singles of the year. Dex and Evan Carr released that project. That shit was amazing too. Yeah, I can't pick.
I mean, shout out everybody in the scene who released a single song this year.
Yeah, if you released a single fucking song, shout out. And if you
Congratulations.
didn't release one,
So I was able to narrow it down to one.
okay.
And it's not even anybody on the internet. It's a local band.
Oh, okay.
My local music scene is actually very alive and thriving.
I would imagine.
And a band that I discovered this year, they are called Stopping Short. They are from my hometown, and I saw them for the first time at a local venue before they later opened for us at our album release show. So this band features a local singer guitar player who was in an old pop punk band called Of the Fact, who I loved in high school. He went on to form Stopping Short, and now he's fronting the band. And first, when I heard about them as a pop punk band, I thought, okay, they're going to sound like his old band, Of the Fact. They're going to sound
Yes.
kind of like Blink-182. It's like, okay, they'll probably be fine. But I saw them live. They are absolutely killer live. Like, their live music is better than the album. And they are more, I was kind of missold on them because they are more of like, kind of like a post-hardcore emo band. They sound more like Senses Fail than Blink-182 in a lot of cases. And they've clearly got some influence from like underground emo rap and stuff. They did a cover of a Lil Peep song. Fake Smile, Fake Everything is very much kind of like when you take a Midwest emo loop and you sing melancholic emo vocals over it. Like, it's all it's missing is like 808 and trap drums and stuff like that.
Nice.
But it goes full band at the end. I mean, their EP is really great. Despite the production not being fantastic, the songs are all great on there, and seeing them live really is what brings them to life. So when I saw them live for the first time, it blew me away. We knew that we had to have them collab with us for our release show. So we were able to play together again, share the stage, and they're just a really fantastic band. So shout out to local bands. Stopping Short,
Shout
amazing.
out local bands.
And, just get out there and go see a show or something next year. Because you never know
Yeah.
what you're going to find.
Get involved in your local music scene. And if you're one of those little hyper pop kids, I promise you, live scenes exist for that too. Go find it.
For the longest time, my local scene was metal and hardcore. At least with the young people. The
Yeah.
youngins.
I'm sure you could guess what my local scene is. It's all folk, baby. It's all folk, and that's
music?
it. Folk,
Okay.
folk rock.
Yeah, so you kind of feel like out of place. But only recently, within the last couple of years, I've discovered that there actually is like a decent hip-hop scene. So, and I've got to meet some local hip-hop artists and see some people perform live who really share a lot of influence with me. So I think it's great. Get out there and go see some live music, because you never know what you're going to find or who you're going to meet.
Yeah, we have a small like trap scene here. There's a couple trap artists, like trap rappers in Huntington, that are a lot of fun. But dude, I mean, it's folk
Yeah.
100% here. I mean, when you live in a place where Tyler Childers is essentially considered a minor deity, you're gonna get a lot of that.
Yeah. So let's move on to other bits of media that we enjoyed this year.
Okay.
let's start off. I'll let you take this one, Mel, because I
Okay.
imagine you probably have an honorable mention because you are a big anime enjoyer. So,
What made you
favorite
think that?
favorite anime or manga this year? What's your runner-up for that?
You know what? I'm gonna say this just because I was surprised by it.
Hmm.
So, My Hero Academia, right? I think that show is really annoying. But not like I think the fandom is annoying, so I think the show is annoying. Listen, I've watched the first 2 seasons of MHA, and I just don't like it. I think it's a great plot. I think it's an amazing concept, and I think it's a great story. But there's just something about the anime that like prevents me from fully loving it. Um, I don't know what it is, but something about it is just not enjoyable to me. But I binge read the entire manga and I loved it. So I don't know what the difference was for me. But I had a great time reading the MHA manga. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought it had a lot of really fantastic characters, a lot of amazing world building. Um, just a generally well-rounded, super likable manga. So I don't know what the fuck happened with the show that makes me not like it. See, I don't know. I mean, the voice acting doesn't suck. The voice acting's fine. The show is animated well. I mean, is it the pacing of the show? Maybe. I mean, maybe it is the voice acting. Maybe they go a little over the top with it. I don't know. Like, I don't know what it is. It's a fine show.
When you're reading it, you get to kind of set your own pace.
Yeah, yeah. I had a really great time reading it, but it wasn't my favorite that I read this year, I would say.
My second favorite anime of the year didn't come out this year. Came out late last year, and I only got around to watching it this year. It's Chainsaw Man.
Oh, dude, Chainsaw Man's so fucking good.
So I definitely heard the buzz around Chainsaw Man initially when it was coming out, but I didn't get into watching it right away. I mean, what can I say? It's Chainsaw Man. It's adorable, it's violent, it's got a bunch of colorful characters. It's just one of those anime that basically represents why I enjoy anime. Because of all the over-the-top villains and the action and just the weird, likable characters. I mean, it's really fantastic. I liked it so much that I've got the first 2 issues behind me there, and I would like to read up until beyond this season.
Chainsaw Man's fantastic. I remember when I had I remember the first time that I got COVID a couple years back. That was before the vaccine was like widely available. And so it was kicking my ass, bro. I was in bed, fucking lips blue, incoherent mumbling. I was a zombie. But I read all of Chainsaw Man in just like one night.
Mm.
And it was a thrilling experience.
Mel, what is your number one anime or manga of the year?
You know what? That's tough. That's a tough question for me. Not a lot of anime came out this year that I liked or that I watched. Not that I did. Not that I liked that I watched. I used to watch every seasonal anime. I don't do that anymore because I value my mental health. But I will say this: I read Tokyo. I read all 30 Tokyo Ghoul books like once or twice a year. I want to just say Tokyo Ghoul because it's my favorite of all time. But I'm gonna say Inuyashiki. I actually, despite it being a fairly iconic manga, I had never read Inuyashiki until this year. And where it was not my favorite manga by any means, it was such a wildly fun experience. That it stuck with me. I don't know. You don't read a lot of manga or watch a lot of anime where the protagonist is like a 70, 80-year-old man.
Right.
It's a nice, fresh perspective, great plot. I don't know, just generally all around was a really fun manga to read.
My favorite anime of the year is Junji Ito Maniac. So that's one that actually came out this year, which is why it's going to take the top spot. I understand that these are condensed versions of the manga, and I'm definitely not getting the full story. These are like little appetizer tastes of the variety of different horror stories that Junji Ito has put out.
Anthology series almost.
That's right. So I can understand some elitists might say this show sucked because there's just not enough of it. I mean, I really enjoyed it because of that. They're super short. They kind of introduce a disturbing and creepy premise and kind of leave you hanging. And it's definitely one of those shows that makes you want to, if you've never read Junji Ito, this is the kind of show where you watched it and you want to go read all the manga now.
I really love Junji Ito. I got his new book, and it's fantastic. But I have like all of the big hardback collections of like Uzumaki and Tomy and Gyo and all that stuff.
I've got Tomy right behind me right now. Probably the most visible, thickest manga I have back there.
Mine's actually hidden in the cabinet part of my bookshelf. But I think it's really hard to adapt Ito's work for sure. The first anime they did generally sucked bad. The new Netflix one was actually pretty fine. I was okay with it. He's got a cat manga. It has nothing to do with horror. It's just about cats, and it's amazing.
Well, it's all right to have more than one passion.
It has this horror and cats. That's about it.
Nothing wrong. That sounds like me. I mean, what's wrong with that? Let's talk movies.
Okay, let's
now,
talk.
Did you
movies.
watch a lot of movies this year?
I watch a couple movies a week.
Did you spend a lot of time in theaters this year?
I spent a little bit of time in the theaters.
Okay. Do you have an honorable mention for a movie?
I do have an honorable mention for my movie.
Let me hear it.
And it feels wrong calling this an honorable mention. But I'm a hop on it. I'm a hop on that train. It was Barbie. Barbie was killer. Barbie was so fucking good. That movie was everything that I expected it to be, wanted it to be, and more. Margot Robbie, perfect. Ryan Gosling, perfect. Supporting cast, perfect.
I mean, I love Margot Robbie in that movie, but goddamn, Ryan Gosling steals the show. I think
God,
I
he's
gushed
so
enough
good.
about him, but yeah.
I do not think a single person could have played either of those characters above them. I don't think
I agree.
anybody could have played Ken the way that Ryan Gosling played Ken. And I don't think that anybody could have played Barbie the way Margot Robbie did.
I'm with you.
But God, Ryan Gosling was so much fun in that movie. And so is Margot. I don't know. I love that. That's my honorable mention just because I cannot say that it was my favorite movie of the year. That title belongs to another film. But Barbie, the hype was worth it. It was a lot of fun. I don't give a fuck if it was like the most popular movie of the year, because it was. I don't care to be on that mainstream. I don't care to be on that mainstream bandwagon. That shit was fucking awesome.
Now, is your favorite movie of the year, did that also come out on the same day?
Maybe. How'd you know that? How'd you know that?
I mean, you can hardly get through a podcast without referencing the Oppenheimer stare. And I think in your
That's
most
true, I
recent
have.
video, you also referenced it.
I did. It's so good. It's so good. But I do say it too much probably.
Okay, well, my honorable mention this year, as much as I love Barbie and Super Mario, I got two horror movies that topped them. My honorable mention for movie of the year is Saw 10. So this movie is not even like particularly amazing. Like I would probably say this is like a 7 or 8 out of 10 movie. But
Hey man, that's a 10 out of 10 for the Saw franchise.
that's true. That's exactly why. But for Saw movies, which I'm a diehard fan of Saw and the whole franchise. So
It's my favorite horror franchise.
and the whole last half of the main series was super stinky. The other attempts at rebooting the series were both stinky, and this one actually does it right, finally. This movie is so great because it actually finally gets it that John Kramer is the most interesting part of the franchise, and they make him the main character. I don't know why
Thank
it took them
fucking
this
God,
long.
right?
They did not learn from Saw 2, where he was like, in 3, which are the stronger movies, where
Yeah, they
he's the main
fucking
character.
killed him in Saw 3.
Well, no, but I'm saying like he was a prominent role in those movies.
I mean, I'm not going to sit down and turn on Spiral from the Book of Jigsaw.
Absolutely. Terrible.
That's dumb as fuck. I'm
But-
not doing that. Sorry, Chris Rock.
They gave us like it was like an actual movie, like with a plot. This actually didn't just feel like gore porn like the others. And like I said, it's not even like a fantastic movie, but what it does for the Saw franchise, putting it back on track, and just how much I surprisingly enjoyed this, where I expected to think it was like mediocre or even bad, or like a so bad it's good kind of movie. I was very pleasantly surprised with this one. I really enjoyed it.
I'm gonna say this in defense of the Saw franchise. The first Saw movie is an amazing masterclass of horror and crime thriller. And the Saw franchise is my favorite horror franchise. I love all of those mainline movies. Jigsaw sucked, and Spiral I didn't even bother watching. But here's the thing: Saw 5, 6, and Saw 3D. aren't good movies.
Mm-hmm.
But I have so much fun watching those.
I'm with you.
Not because I like the gore porn shit, but because it becomes like a soap opera.
I would literally say the same thing if I had to describe why I love these movies.
It becomes like this wacky, convoluted soap opera that just gets more intricate and unnecessarily complex with each entry in the series.
Preach,
and
Mel.
that's so much fun to me.
They're so fucking convoluted.
I like the first couple of movies are genuinely good. Like Saw 1 and 2 are great.
Yeah.
But man, Saw 3D, I mean, come on.
It's fucking ridiculous, but it's good. It's enjoyable. That's why I love the series.
Yes, it is. I have fun watching it.
I was expecting this one to do the same. To be like, it's probably going to be bad, but like, I'll enjoy it.
I think everybody was incredibly surprised that Saw 10 was a thought out movie. A movie with just some sort of thought put behind it.
So Mel, why don't you tell us about why you loved Oppenheimer so much?
I think that Oppenheimer is not only the best movie to come out this year, but maybe the best movie to come out this decade. And I'm being very serious about that. All jokes aside, I just think Nolan really outdid himself. I mean, every single element of this movie is so passionately thought out and well rehearsed that it's kind of hard to poke holes in a lot of it. I mean, all the performances were amazing. Cillian Murphy played such a like gut-wrenching portrayal of a man so conflicted by his like sort of like passive centrist beliefs that they tear him apart. Like his passiveness is kind of like what destroys not only his relationships but also his moral ground. And it's such a heartbreaking and tragic character. I mean, there's a reason that book is called American Prometheus, but whatever. Florence Pugh is another amazing actress that does a fantastic job. I mean, the supporting cast of this is insane. I mean,
Robert Downey Jr.
I mean, Robert Downey Jr. was not the main character by any means, and that is his best role he has ever had.
He's the villain. I was surprised to see that.
I mean, he did amazing. Rami Malek was in the movie for like fucking 2.5 minutes, and he killed it. Mm-hmm. I don't know. The entire supporting cast was great.
Peck. Let's give it up for Josh Peck.
Josh Peck did fine. Jack Quaid
He pushed
did
the
fine
button
as well. Yeah, he pushed the button.
He went from Drake and Josh to pushing the button.
The cinematography was absolutely stunning. I loved a lot of the shots. I loved a lot of the shot composition. I liked how a lot of things were framed, how they moved, how people interacted within the shots. Matt Damon, of course, going back to the characters, Matt Damon killed it as well. And then the sound design was probably the standout. The sound design was bone chilling and eerie. I mean, the scene where they're all clapping after he announces that the bomb has been dropped in the auditorium in the gymnasium. I mean, that scene is terrifying. Mm-hmm. And a big reason of why it's terrifying is the sound design of the scene. And obviously, I can't, like, in a very impromptu format, I can't really explain why I think this movie is the best movie of the decade so far. But I genuinely just, like, I cannot fucking believe that is, like, a movie that I can just watch.
Yeah.
Just whenever I want.
Okay, my favorite movie of the year is actually a movie that flopped and is very divisive. A lot of people really don't like it. And that is
wow, interesting.
Beau is Afraid. Now, I know you're an Ari Aster fan. Have you seen this one?
You know, as much as I love Ari Aster, I never got around to Beau is Afraid. But I heard a lot of really... I mean, all of the things that I heard about it, whether they be pros or cons, the more divisive elements of the film, all sounded like things that I would enjoy. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. It's really hard for me to get up and go to a movie theater.
This movie, you know, I'm already a huge Ari Aster fan, Hereditary, Midsommar, all that good stuff. Some of the best horror movies out there. This movie goes in a totally weird, different direction. And I can tell why it's very divisive. I can understand why people wouldn't like it. And in a lot of cases, I don't like movies that are like this. Movies that are kind of allegorical or they don't make any fucking sense until you're done watching the movie and then you go reflect on it later kind of movies. Normally, I think that shit is lame.
I can understand
And
that.
I can understand why people wouldn't like it for that reason. Because this is basically, this embodies why I watch horror movies and what I'm looking for in a horror movie. Because I want to see something shocking, unexpected, something that'll put me on edge or make me feel uncomfortable. You know, I don't watch horror movies to see an Ooga Booga monster and jump out of my seat. I want to see something that just will grip me and make me feel icky. And
Yeah.
I don't know what's coming next. I'm on the edge of my seat like any fucking thing could happen next. I cannot predict what kind of weird shit is going to happen. And that is this movie. It's hard to discuss, but Joaquin Phoenix obviously is an incredible actor. He sells everything. The plot is, it's got enough of a driving force to kind of move you along. And it's obviously framed as like just being a worst case scenario nightmare situation. Very surreal, horrifying. Yes. Everything that can go wrong does go wrong. And this main character is just shrouded in guilt and fear the entire movie, for good reason, because everything around him is against him. And if you haven't seen this movie, just go in blind. I fucking adore this movie. It's my favorite movie of the year. One of my favorite horror movies now. And it's unfortunate that it didn't do well or wasn't just widely loved, but I guess I can understand why not. And this is another one of those I have problems with my mother kind of movie. This is the I have problems with my mother movie.
Nice. Hell yeah.
Which is weird because I looked into it and Ari Aster has like a fine relationship with his mom. Mel, you play a lot of video games this year?
No. Not even close.
Do you have an honorable mention? Or do you just have one?
I don't have an honorable.
Game of the
year? Do not have an honorable mention.
Okay, let me do mine then. Honorable mention for my favorite game of the year is Lies of P. So, I'm a huge Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Bloodborne kind of fan. And I had my eye on this game as soon as it was announced and revealed, because it's basically another studio's take on Bloodborne, or a sequel to Bloodborne. This is a dark fantasy, horror-inspired Souls game, which is centered around Pinocchio, weirdly enough.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of an adaptation of Pinocchio, featuring a lot of those characters and settings and stuff. But basically, you play as Pinocchio, and you are slaying puppets and zombies and horrific monsters. At first, I was like, okay, this is similar to Bloodborne. Like, I can see where they got inspiration from Bloodborne, clearly. And then as the game progressed, I am like, this is Bloodborne 2. And I am ecstatically excited for that, because Bloodborne is one of my favorite games of all time. I have not finished this game, so I can't definitively say that it's my favorite. I've been adoring this game, absolutely loving it so far. This game is just fantastic, the way that it riffs on Bloodborne and really continues that kind of style and feel. I really could not have asked for a better Bloodborne 2 not being made by From Software. My favorite game of the year is Resident Evil 4 Remake. So,
let's go.
It's a remake of one of my favorite games of all time already. I don't know how they did it. I don't know what kind of wizardry they got over there at Capcom. How do you take a fucking amazing 10 out of 10 game and then remake it and make it better? Most times when studios do this kind of shit, they make it worse. They mess it up.
I'm going to tell you how.
Yeah.
It's Resident Evil 4. That's how. Listen, I have not played the Resident Evil 4 remake because I'm broke. But I did play the Resident Evil 2 remake when it came out, and that shit was perfect.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2 remake was fucking perfect.
As like a diehard fan of Resident Evil 4, like, you think I would be the most critical person of this game. And if there was a flaw or something to change that I didn't like, I would be all over that shit. But I can't speak badly about this game because they basically nailed it. They reworked the game, all the mechanics, the locations. It is vastly different from the original. Enough so that it justifies being its own game, but it still has the spirit of the original game, and all the plot points are kind of there. Yeah, this was my game of the year because it was one of those games that I could not put down. And it's been a while since I've had one of those games where, like, if I'm not playing this game, I'm thinking about it.
That's how I was with the Resident Evil 2 remake.
I adore that remake too as well. I haven't played the original RE2, but that remake fucking blew me away. So
Oh, it's
this is
fantastic.
an evolution of that. It's even better, and I'm just wow. I'm honestly stunned just by how good this game is. Do you have a favorite video game of the year?
Hell yeah, I do, baby. It's Counter-Strike 2.
That makes sense. Counter-Strike 2 did come out this year, yeah.
I play one video game consistently, and that video... Hey, Resident Evil 4 is on sale for half off right now. I'm buying it.
Get it now.
But hey, listen, I played nothing but Counter-Strike Global Offensive for a long time. Hey, occasional Risk of Rain 2 game, occasional Overwatch game, occasional single-player game. I loved Mori, but man, I Counter-Strike has always had my back.
Mm-hmm.
And I will always have Counter-Strike's back.
So as a huge Counter-Strike fan, are you impressed with 2?
Kinda. Yeah, there's a lot of nice quality of life updates that I think were really cool. A lot of the sort of mechanics overhaul was a lot of fun. They didn't change any of the mechanics that would fuck up the way you played the game.
Mm-hmm.
But they changed a lot of cool things. They changed the way smokes worked, which I thought was a cool little detail. They changed the way that games refreshed. A 64 tick is now a thing of the past, and honestly, it was kind of a rather antiquated system to begin with. I don't know. A lot of the changes I think were really cool. I know that some people are way less satisfied with the changes than I am. But I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm pretty cool with everything they changed, and I'm a huge fan of the game. And me and Swain run Wingman constantly. I hardly even play. I mean, I can't even get myself to play 5v5s because I'm playing Wingman so much.
Yeah. All right, Mel. What was your favorite experience of the year?
You know what? I know that we have favorite experience and then also favorite achievement. It's this. Both are the same thing for me. So I'm gonna give you a twofer. I'm gonna get them out of the way.
Okay.
My favorite experience was going to Brooklyn, New York, and doing a live show with my best friends and having an amazing time. And then my favorite achievement was doing my first live show in Brooklyn, New York, with my best friends. It was a lot of fun. I hung out with Swain and Sid all weekend. I went to Dave and Buster's with Garden. A good amount of people showed up. That didn't matter, but a good amount of people showed up, and I was able to perform 5 of my or 4 or 5 of my very favorite songs that I've ever made. And it was just an overall really positive experience. I wanted to perform live so bad, and I finally did it. And Brooklyn is also a lot of fun. I can see myself just living there. That's an environment that I can thrive in for sure.
Now, Mel, if people wanted to see more of a deep dive into this experience, where might they find that?
That's a really good question, Carl. I'm so glad that you asked it. Go to the Melmage YouTube channel. There's I made a documentary, or a short documentary of Wheelbarrow Fest, which was the name of the festival that I performed at. And then I also posted my entire live set. It's like 15 minutes long. Shout out Thomas for shooting a lot of the footage. Shout out Kenzie for shooting the other part of the footage. It was it was one of the happiest days of my life. I swear to God, I was on that high for weeks afterwards, and now I'm just depressed about it. It was amazing. I did Inertia. I did Panopticon. I did Baudelaire. I did Mossman. And then I ended out with Anxiety Freestyle, which is more of a placeholder name. In my mind, the song doesn't really have a title, but you have to have a title for a song. That's how these things work. And it was great. I got to see all my friends. I got to meet new friends. It was fucking sick. Shout out everybody involved in that.
I love to see it. It gives me hope to see that you can just be a young artist and you just take a chance. You put your music out on the internet and you never know where it's going to go. You probably never expected that this would happen when you're putting out your early songs.
Not a single time.
You would not believe that you could go and open for Garden and...
No, not at all.
Right.
But here we are, baby. I drove 12 hours to get there, and I would do it again.
Mm-hmm. So, my favorite experience of the year, totally not nearly as flashy as yours, but nice. I saw my first drag show this year.
Nice! How was that?
great. I mean, it was my favorite favorite experience.
Oh, that's true. I guess it was your favorite.
What if
Yeah.
I was like, it was mid, it's whatever. My life actually
It'd be
sucked. So like
crazy.
something mid that happened to me was actually the best.
Was the best part. Yeah.
No,
That'd be
but
awful.
my hometown actually has a very thriving drag scene, which is great.
Dude, so do we.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of great bars and venues in the area that are hosting these fairly often. I had never been to a drag show, obviously, so I didn't know what to expect. And I just really enjoyed myself. And I've gone to a few more since. I watched Thank You for Everything Julie Newmar at one of our local theaters, and I cried. And yeah, I've just had a good time in terms of drag this year. What can I
Hell
say?
yeah.
It's been cool. They put on some great shows. We've got a lot of really great performers and comedians and just friendly people that we go, meet them at the bar afterwards. So it's really great. It's very wholesome.
What was your favorite achievement? What did Carl accomplish this year?
Well, Carl accomplished a little thing called releasing my first full-length album, Midwest Vignettes. This is
Hell
a
yeah.
collaboration between my roommate and I. God, it's been in the works for, well, probably 2 years. I remember showing him some Snapchat that I made, like, is like a 2 year ago memory of me making a demo beat for Rock Bottom. So these songs we've been sitting on these for a long, long time.
For
And
a
I've
while.
had
It
this
was so
album.
worth it, though. It was so worth the wait.
Yes, it's one of those things where it's been kind of slowly chipped away at, and we've been sitting on it for so long, unable to really fully commit to finishing it until we finally did this year. And it just feels amazing to have a 30-minute full-length album with some amazing production and collaboration with him, and just to see it all come together. And the reception of it was amazing, and we got to play a release show in our hometown with a bunch of our friends. So I'm just overwhelmed by that, and I'm looking forward to putting out a lot more great music in the following years. All right, Mel, do you want to close out with any message for going forward into 2024 or anything in review of 2023?
This is going to sound so fucking cheesy, but I was the kind of person that never had New Year's resolutions growing up as a kid. I kind of thought that it's not that I looked down upon the concept. I just kind of felt like I never really had one, and so it would kind of feel disingenuous to just make one up. You know what I mean? So I never had it. I never had a New Year's resolution. But when I went into college, the first year I went to college, which was 4 or 5 years ago, I kind of ended that first semester with this New Year's resolution to kind of just generally be a kinder and, more importantly, more empathetic person. And that has been my New Year's resolution every year since then, is just to kind of further this mentality of strongly guided empathy towards my fellow man. And so going into 2024, a lot of shit that's bad has happened, is happening, and will continue to happen. But I would recommend making a conscious and active effort to understand that a harshly and overtly myopic perspective on life will only breed contempt toward the people that you share this earth with. Try to understand the perspective of somebody. And hey, if after you do that, you come to the conclusion, you know what, I walked a mile in your shoes and your shoes fucking suck to wear, you suck, that's fine. But I don't know, just don't be a dick to people. 2024 is the year of not being a dick.
So 2023 has been a good year for me. Definitely a very stressful and busy year, but good things have happened. And don't even get me started on how good it was for gaming. This is one of the best years for video games in this
if
decade.
Only I played them consistently.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back and check out 2023's back catalog. I didn't even talk about
I'll probably
Baldur's Gate 3.
just buy Baldur's Gate and call it a day.
Yeah, I didn't even mention Baldur's Gate 3, but holy shit. The only thing I want to do looking forward is just continue to be creative and put out more stuff. So this podcast has been going for, I don't know, what this is our 7th episode, 7 weeks.
About 2 months, almost.
About 2 months, yeah. And, I love making it. I love editing it. I love making the shorts. I'm very happy that this is all to come together. I'm very happy for the small amount of people who are actually listening. So I am just looking forward to next year growing this show. And it's just the idea of how much I've grown my music from nothing to what it is now. It just gives me hope for that if I just remain consistent with the podcast, that eventually it will just pan out. It will take off because I've done it before. So I know that I can do it again. And I want to do more. I would just want to continue doing the podcast. I want to put out the best music of my life this year. And if I'm not being creative, I might as well be dead. That's basically my motto. I have just a burning desire in me at all times to just make art. So that's what I'm going to do 2024. No one's going to stop me. So this has been our favorites of 2023. We will see you in the near future with our next episode. Next year, 2024, Long Couch Podcast. We're taking over. Hide your daughters. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye-bye.